Charles Matthews first came on my radar way back in the late 90s with his Boston-based gutter glam punk band, the Dimestore Halos. Along with the Stitches, the Swingin' Utters, and the Briefs, the Dimestore Halos became one of my favorite bands of the time. All those bands do share a common element, but the Halos had a Hanoi Rocks look and feel to them that I really dug. They released a handful of LPs and 7 inches before calling it quits in the early 2000s. Fast forward 10 years later, Charles and Dimestore Halos drummer Kevin Packhurst emerge once again, this time from Washington, with a brand new band called the Cheap Cassettes, this time with a more mature yet gritty power pop sound to them. Cheap Cassettes have released one LP, 2014's All Anxious All the Time, and are on the verge of releasing a new one this fall. They've also released a handful of EPs on Rumbar Records and the band's own label, Cassettes on Record. So now, without further ado, here's me and Josh with our first guest, Charles Matthews.
When every day's feeling like a Monday morning, staying out late, kinda gets boring. Do what you wanna when you wanna do something now. I'm getting older by day, younger at night. I need a little something to feel alright. Yeah, do what you wanna when you wanna do something now. Yeah, you do what you wanna when you wanna do something now. Chances are you've made some choices.
So Charles, we're going to start with a little musical question here.
Sure.
Tell us a little bit about how the Cheap Cassettes came to be. Clearly, this band was a continuation of your musical relationship with Kevin. But with the new name, was there a clear sense that this would be a new band and not just Dimestore Halos Part 2?
Yeah. Well, there were 10 years between the Halos and the Cheap Cassettes. So that amount of time, you change what you're listening to, and you change, to some extent what you want to do. And he was living in Hawaii and I was in Boston still at that point too. So how it came about was I was doing some sort of like country music-ish type stuff. And I sent it to him just to see if he liked it, and he didn't. And he said, well, you could, what you need is a drummer. And I was like, okay, well, I mean, how are we going to do that? And he's like, well, I can record drums here and you can record your stuff there. So while this was all going on, I was thinking, if he's going to be a part of it, then I would like to do something more that he was into. And he was absolutely obsessed with power pop at that point. And so I started writing power pop songs, and just kind of snowballed from there. But as far as how it's different from the Dimestore Halos, God, I hope it is. You know what I mean? Because when we started it, we were 10 years older, and now again we're 10 years older than that. So different influences. Hopefully, we're better at our instruments. Hopefully, I'm a better singer. Let's hope. So yeah, it's different. It's a different thing. And I know because it is myself and Kevin, there are certain things that are going to sound similar, but it's a different animal, I would say, entirely.
Yeah, dude, I totally agree. I wouldn't even guess you guys are like the same people in the same bands, even though I do like Dimestore Halos, dude. I'm pretty sure I have all the records, all the 7 inches, and then I have the rest on CDs. But man, 10 years is a long time.
Yeah.
I didn't know it was that long.
Yeah. Well, the Halos were over around 2001, although that final record didn't come out till about 2004, I want to say. But we were done by then. And Cheap Cassettes started around 2011, as far as just us recording. So, yeah.
Wow.
And 10 more years on top of that.
Yeah.
Where does the time go?
Another year older and deeper in debt.
So at any point in your very long career as an artist, have you ever thought to yourself, why do I even bother? What drives you to keep going, to write songs, to make music in spite of all the trials and tribulations and difficulties that you face as a musician?
Yeah, I mean, that amplifier is heavy, man, and I don't know how much longer I can carry that thing. But yeah,
Furniture dollies.
I mean, that's something we've been talking about a lot lately. All three of us are super negative people and just like really fatalistic people, and we're all just like, well, when are we going to stop? It's not like what's the next thing we're going to do? Like, what's the next show? It's always like, are we just going to stop? And we will at some point. Sooner rather than later, probably. But we've got a really, really good new record in the can, and that's what's keeping us doing it right now. As far as writing songs, I can't help it. Even that 10 years when I wasn't really doing anything, I wrote every day. I write every day now. Only about 1% of it is usable in any form, but I write constantly and I can't really help it. Every time I pick up a guitar, I write something. My phone is full of hundreds and hundreds of like 3-second song ideas. But yeah, I mean, it gets difficult, and it's not like we feel with the cheap cassettes, we're at the point now, much like the Dimestore Halos were at the end, where we don't feel like we're not being heard. We feel like there are people listening, and that helps a lot too. And like our shows around here, it's not like we're playing like sellout arenas or anything like that, but our shows are well enough attended that we feel like it's fun, and so that's what keeps us going until we decide not to.
That's cool, man. I think that I hope you don't stop. And here's why. I think this world needs people with cool hobbies. Even if people aren't listening, hey, I'll still be listening if that means anything. But it's like, what the hell else are people going to do if they stop? People say that to me, like, why are you starting another podcast? Why do you keep collecting comics? Why do you buy, stupid action figures or whatever? Well, what the hell am I going to do? Be playing fucking golf?
Yeah.
Something boring.
Yeah,
you don't want to be something boring, dude. No, you can't do that. You can't do that either, man. You got to keep playing guitar and recording music.
Oh yeah. I mean, I would in some form. But I feel like we're being heard. Like, we press up reasonable amounts of records and we sell them, and like I said, the shows are well enough attended so that we get full bars, small bars, but full bars. And, it's fun still. So like, as long as that's happening, we'll do it in some way, even if it's only 2 shows a year or something, I'm sure we'll do something.
Awesome. You guys got to come down the coast into Arizona, maybe Texas. No, not Texas. There's some cool parts of Texas, dude. There's some cool parts of Texas.
Who knows? I mean, yeah, Austin, I guess. I mean, who knows? Like, if it becomes financially, something that we can do and it's worth our time, yeah, we'll go wherever. We're probably going to have to play Boston before we end it all, because Lou won't hear of us not. So he's been trying to get us on a plane for years. So.
Cool.
All right. How about some controversy now? Going to ask you about your definition of power pop. I mean, everyone's got an opinion about power pop. So when you think of it, do you think of it as a general style of music? Is it something that should be very specific and strictly defined? I mean, I think about all of these power pop Facebook groups that I joined, and I ended up leaving all of them because the purist contingent always ruins the fun. So what do you think? What's power pop to you?
To me, power pop is guitar-based pop music, 2 or 3 minute songs or thereabouts, and just catchy melodies. And like, you've got the power and you've got the pop. The power obviously comes from guitars and drums, so that has to be there. And the pop part comes from, mid-century pop music and rock and roll, from Buddy Holly to Big Star, everything in between. So there's a lot. I mean, those groups, I'm in a lot of those groups too. And sometimes if I'm feeling cantankerous, I argue with those people. But there's You know, you can't convince them that if it doesn't have a skinny tie and a Beatle haircut, but you know, that's what I think it is. It's guitar-based pop music, full stop, from whatever era you care to listen to.
Perfect
Yeah.
definition.
I don't think I'm on any power pop groups. You guys have to send me some of the names or something of some of those.
Don't worry about it.
I'll just wake up cantankerous.
Yeah, I mean, it's just people fighting, which is what the internet is. But listen to what you like. You know, call it power pop if you want to. If you want to call 2 Minutes to Midnight by Iron Maiden power pop, I'm not going to argue with you. It's a great. So it don't matter.
So earlier you mentioned country music, and I know, gosh, I think even maybe when I first interviewed you guys through email with Audio Ammunition, you said something about country music. I know I've talked to you about Buck Owens, and how did you get into country music?
Buck Owens is power pop, by the way.
Yeah.
In my definition. Buck Owens is probably more similar to the early Beatles than a lot of those bands that want to be the early Beatles are. So country music, I mean, I was kind of born into it. My father was a truck driver, and we also ran a farm. I was born on a farm in Michigan, so you can't really avoid country music. And I did not like it as a child because it was forced down my throat. But my father always said, like, when you get older and you get some experience under your belt, you're going to understand these songs. And oddly enough, that's exactly what happened. So like, I don't know. And country music's not that different from rock and roll in the sense that you've got your tortured front man that sometimes writes the songs, and you've got your like crazy shit hot guitar player. I mean, David Lee Roth and Eddie Van Halen are very, very similar to like Buck Owens and Don Rich in a lot of ways. It's not that different. I mean, genre things are, whatever. It's a guitar tone or it's a haircut. It doesn't really matter. But yeah, I love country music. Did that answer that question? I don't even.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, that's interesting. I don't know. I kind of like the same way as, or did all I ever heard was what was on the radio, race and stuff. But it's like I got into music through like Bob Dylan, and then going back to Hank Williams, and then like Woody, him liking Woody Guthrie, and Hank Williams, and all that kind of stuff, and that it just opened up a whole other door. But I want to kind of switch gears a little bit and talk to you about your new podcast that you started, All My Dead Heroes. What led you to start that up?
I was bored.
As good a reason as any.
I was bored, and the Cheap Cassettes weren't doing anything. Because of the pandemic, there were no shows and no rehearsals. So I just started thinking about what else I would like to do. And a couple of months ago, I just decided I was listening to a lot of podcasts, and Cocaine and Rhinestones, the country music podcast specifically. And I just decided that I would like to try my hand at that. And rather than take a few months and try to perfect it, I decided to just start doing it. And that's what I'm doing. So it's been fun,
Yeah. Let me ask you this sub question. Do you think that, doing all the research for you, has it become work yet? And when it does, do you think that's something that you might kind of stop at that point, or?
Probably. I don't know. I mean, the research is mostly just reminding myself of stuff that I already knew. I've, all my life since I was 13, I've been reading music biographies and obsessing over, old copies of Kerrang or whatever. So I know all the stories already, and it's just like refreshing my memory and getting details down. So the research doesn't really take that much time. I usually just flip through books that I've already read 10 times, and I look up dates. Dates are what I don't remember usually. So
Yeah.
it's really not that much work. Each episode so far has been taking about a day to research and a day to write. And I'm
Oh,
not,
wow.
yeah, I mean, it doesn't really take that much time for me. And I'm not afraid of making mistakes and saying things that aren't true because somebody will let me know. So
Oh, yeah.
I don't mind that. People have been getting in touch, and that's awesome. And telling me like, oh, you got this date wrong, so I'll do a correction or
Mhm.
whatever. And it's not a big deal, but it's fun to do. And the one that I'm working on right now is Mark Bolan.
Yeah.
Mark, and that's been awesome. Just because I've been listening to T-Rex for like a week now, so nothing wrong with that. But yeah, it's just something I'm doing for fun, and it seems like people are digging it. So I'm liking it too.
Cool. Yeah, the Gene Vincent episode was chock full of information, man. That
Yeah,
was packed, probably more than like all the other ones.
yeah. That one was actually 33 minutes long, which is a long one for me. I wanted it to be very, very brief.
Mhm.
Enough for like somebody to listen to on a commute to work or on their lunch hour, lunch half hour, or whatever. And that's what I'm going to keep trying to do. So I'm going to leave a lot of like little details out, but the main thing about the podcast for me is like getting the things that matter to me in there, because I'm
Right.
a huge fan of all these people, and I am obsessive about details and things like that. So yeah, I mean, it's fun. It's fun to listen to, hopefully, and it's definitely fun to do.
Yeah, yeah, it is. Um, so let me go off the path yet again. And so, okay, we touch on social media a little bit,
Yeah,
but I have to commend you. You use social media like a fucking boss, dude.
think so.
You, nobody uses it like you do. I mean,
I have
uh,
a secret weapon.
what's that?
I have a secret weapon. My niece is a influencer.
Oh, really?
I won't say like who she is or whatever because
Yeah.
whatever. But she has given me a lot of tips, and if
Wow.
I do something stupid, she tells me right away. So I try not to do it again. So yeah, I mean, I have her as a secret weapon, but other than that, I just don't. Especially since COVID, I don't have anything to do.
Yeah.
So like everybody else, I'm just constantly like looking at my phone, and that's social media for me.
Well, um, you know, aside from a lot of the stuff you put, all the other stuff you post, like your cat pictures, which are hilarious, um, you post a lot of stuff about collecting guitars.
Yeah.
And so I just wanted to ask you real quick, for you, and first of all, I love, even though I don't play guitar and I'm not really into it, I love when people are into collections. Like I love to see people's collections. I love hearing people talk about their collections. So I just wanted to ask you, for you, what makes a great guitar? What makes a well-crafted guitar?
I don't know. I mean, any guitar really, for the most part, with some exceptions, can be a good guitar if the right care is put into it. I buy a lot of cheap guitars. I have some expensive ones too. But to be honest, with the right setup and the right pickups in it, the right electronics, any guitar can be just as good as the expensive ones if you want to put the time in. And I mean, I don't know if I collect guitars. I usually keep around 3 or 4 at a time, but I sell and buy a lot. So most of the ones you see me like post, like, oh, I got a new guitar, like that'll be gone in like a month, and I'll have
Mm,
something else. But right now, well, my wife made me promise to stop. I have to stop buying guitars for 1 year. And
mm,
the year, honestly, the year's almost up. So unbelievably, I have actually not bought a guitar in quite some time. I don't try to hide them from her or anything. People are like, yeah, you should just like put it under the bed and don't tell her it's there. But
It's not an easy thing to hide.
yeah,
You know?
she is not stupid in any sense. But yeah, so I mean, I keep two that are stage worthy at all times, and then I keep two that are just for fun, and that's really all I have. So it's not a huge collection. It just it changes a lot.
Oh, cool. Well, at least you're economical about it.
I try to be smart. Try to be smart.
Yeah. So you told us earlier that you're making a new music video from a song on an upcoming Cheap Cassettes album.
Yeah.
I wanted to ask you, because Cheap Cassettes have a few videos on YouTube. Do you enjoy making videos?
Yeah, I do. Mostly what we do when we make videos is we just get trashed, like absolutely trashed, because we're also like none of us are like extroverts by nature. So like we have to, especially Mike, you have to get Mike pretty drunk. And like we just we just use it as an excuse to hang out. And we happen to have sort of an in-house videographer in Kevin's wife, Anna. She's really good at
Nice.
she does it well, she did it for a long time for a living, and she's pretty good at it. So the video that we're about to make, we're doing that with her, and so it's literally just going to be a video of the first time we've seen each other in a year plus, and we're just
Wow.
gonna get trashed and eat pizza and run around. So his backyard probably. So it'll be interesting.
Sounds like a good time, actually.
If,
Um,
if I keep my pants on, it'll be a good video.
Put
We'll see.
bar over. um, so what do you think? So like even I guess, but even before MTV, they were promotional videos. What do you think is so endearing to people about like a music video? How do you think they've kept they've kept on in the zeitgeist for as long as they have?
Yeah. People, I think, and for me as a fan, people want to see the people that are making the music that they're listening to, and they want to get a sense of those people's personality. And like for our videos, the only concept we've ever really had going into it is we wanted to convey us as people, and they all have pretty well so far. And it's, we're just idiots, and we're nervous, and we're shy and weird and old. And those are the things we like to put into the world so people can judge us for that. For this. But yeah, I just, I don't know. For me, like I always want to see what people are wearing, and I prefer videos that have the band in it performing or in some way. One of my favorite videos of all time is Tomorrow by Morrissey. And that's just him walking through a town with his band walking behind him for the entire song. And that's fascinating to me, just observing their weird interactions with each other. And, Morrissey posing in front, all tortured and shit. And, but yeah, I mean, I think that's what keeps people wanting to see videos, to wanting to see the people that are making the music, in my opinion.
Yeah, I agree. Or at least have them in it in some way. Because like when you were talking about that, like I started thinking about videos that I like that have the band in it but don't perform.
Right.
Like I remember like loving, and this is totally gonna date me, and plant a big cheese face stamp on my head. But like I was thinking about like the Duran Duran video for Hungry Like the Wolf, where they were just kind of like, yeah, literally it's like walking around like, like international, like, mystery adventurers, or, I don't know what the hell, but it was cool,
Exotic locale. Yeah. That's a fantastic video for a fantastic song. And I just think that's what it is. Like, it's just a little like 3 or 4 minute like glimpse into who that band is, even if it's like a fantasy version of that band, which, my band doesn't do. We would not be able to pull that off. But, but that, that's what I think that's what people like about videos, just seeing the band. I like seeing gear, like what guitars and amps people are playing, what
Hmm.
stupid shoes they're wearing and stuff like that. So that's what all of our videos, and I'm sure that this will continue. All of our videos have close-ups of my shoes. This is this is not an accident. This is because I like shoes, and I want you to know that I like shoes. So
I haven't
that
noticed that.
check it
That's
out.
funny. Josh, why don't you go ahead? Because I've been gabbing for too long, I feel.
Yeah, Josh should say something.
Oh, I got a question for you here. What's it like to be in a band these days? Kind of this brave new world of streaming and downloading and social media. Is it easier these days to get people to pay attention to what you're doing, or is it maybe harder than it used to be?
Yeah, I mean, it's easier and harder. It's easier in the sense that you can just put something out there and it's out there like immediately, whereas before, like in the Halos days, like if you want to do, you know this, if you wanted to do an interview for like Maximum Rock and Roll or something, you had to find someone to interview you and then mail it in and wait for them to either throw it in the trash or print it. And a lot of times you didn't know it was going to be printed until you saw it in there. And that was months later. And now you can just put it out there and it's there. But at the same time, everyone is doing that, and there's such a deluge of, as they say, content, and it's like it's a bit much. So you do get lost in the shuffle. And then you have algorithms and things like that. So even if hundreds of people are seeing your post, or well, even if there are hundreds of people that could be seeing your post, probably only 12 people will see it, and probably only 6 of those will hit like. So yeah, I mean, it is a brave new world in it, but it doesn't. I don't know. It's the same thing in a different way, and mostly the difference is that it's much quicker, I would say, now than it used to be.
You come a long way from back in the day when you wanted to put out a record, you had to get into a studio and make the record and find somebody to press it and put it out, and that could take a year or longer to get a record made. Now you can record a song and you can post it on Bandcamp that day if you feel like it and advertise it.
Yeah, absolutely.
So, question about maybe how you have evolved over the years. Let's say over the last 15 to 25 years since your early days in music. How has your musical taste changed, and do you think that's been reflected in the music that you make?
Not a lot. I mean, I still listen to the same records that I have since I was 13, but every few years I add more. You know what I mean? And for me, it's usually not new stuff. It's old stuff I'm discovering that's new to me. But I still listen to the stuff I liked when I was, 13 to 16 years old, which is basically what is now called hair metal or glam. I still put that stuff on, fairly regularly. I was listening to Tiger Tales the other day. Still awesome. But then, but you also keep adding stuff as you do new things. And I spent a long time, like we talked about, super obsessed with country music. And I added so many country records and obscure country artists, people that only pressed 500 records or whatever, that are great. And I keep finding that stuff. So, I mean, it's the genres and the types of things I like are exactly the same as they were when I was a kid for the most part. But there's just so much more of it now. And like, with the internet, you can find that stuff so much easier. And as far as how that's affected, like songwriting and things like that, like you just get better at it. Like I'm still writing the same types of songs to some extent that I was in the Dimestore Halos, but it's just that like musically, as a musician, as a singer, I'm just, a lot better at it than I used to be. And that's just, I haven't pulled like a Paul Weller where he evolves beyond his audience. Like I think people that listen to our stuff listen to the same things we do for the most part. But I have the same influences and I want to write the same types of things. I've just gotten I think I've just gotten so much better at it. How could I not really? doing it for, if you don't get better doing it for this long, there's something very, very, very wrong. So yeah, I mean, it's just, you just get better and you add more stuff into the pile, and that's about it.
Thinking back to when you were coming up in the punk rock world in your early 20s, starting to put out records. Back then, could you have ever imagined yourself still playing very, very similar music at age 50? I mean, back then 50 probably seemed ancient, and now 50 doesn't seem old at all. There's guys that are 70 from like the first wave of punk still going strong. So what do you think? Is 50 the new 30?
I mean, sort of, I guess. I mean, like, even you've got in country music and things like that, you've got even older people still doing it. Wanda Jackson is how old? Like pushing 90. And we actually got to play with her. I don't know if you guys knew that, a couple years ago. She happened to be playing a daytime show at a bar that we were playing a nighttime show at, and the daytime show ran long. So she actually opened for us. It was pretty awesome.
Wow.
She is frail and getting up there, but that voice is still just amazing. So I guess to answer the question, I mean, as long as I can physically do it, I'll probably still do it in some form. But yeah, being 50, I just turned 50 last December, and I don't know. You don't really feel any different. I don't know. I mean, I don't really feel any different. There's things. I mean, I guess I get tired quicker,
Yeah.
but yeah, you feel the same, I guess, and you want the same things, but hopefully, again, like I said, you're just better at it and you're smarter. So as far as 50 being the new 30, I don't know. I was an idiot when I was 30, so and hopefully I'm a little smarter now.
I just don't feel 50 yet. Like, I know I am. I know the math, but I say, hey, I'm like 25 years too young to be president. So I guess 50 isn't as old as maybe I used to think it was.
Yeah, man, people are living longer. Some people are anyway. So it's like, I guess it, and Mick Jagger, I mean, I don't know if you follow Mick Jagger on Instagram. That dude does things I couldn't have done when I was 30. Like he can like kick over his head and stuff like that. His legs are like this big around. He's wearing these huge sneakers and he can just kick over his legs. Amazing.
That's crazy.
And like I don't know what makes a person be able to do that, but I still, I'm fine. I'm not dead yet, so that's good.
So, why don't you tell me what it was like to meet Kurt Bloch and work with him?
Oh yeah, he's great. He's mixing our new record as we speak, and it's mostly done. We're in the rough mix stages, but we don't actually have a lot of corrections for him. What happens is, like, we'll send him the tracks, he'll do a rough mix, send it back to us, and if there are corrections or things that we don't like, then he'll redo it. But for the mixes for this record, everything's pretty great. There's only a couple little things, and he's actually going to be playing keyboards on this record. So I've been trying to get him to. Yeah, it's awesome. I've been trying to get him to actually play something. Well, I don't know. I've been too shy to ask, but I've been hoping that he would offer to play something on one of these records. And we all sort of decided collectively that one of these songs needed some Benmont Tench, like Tom Petty style organ, and he's gonna have a stab at that for us. And a couple other songs need a few things keyboard wise too. So if you hear keys on this record, it's Kurt Bloch. And
wow, that's fantastic.
He's just an amazing person. He's crazy, like he's a personality. And a couple Halloweens ago, I ran into him at a show. I think it was the Sadies. It might have been, maybe I'm confusing two different shows, but like we ran into him around Halloween, and his costume was a trash bag, just and he was walking around with a trash bag with a hole cut out for his face with 2 drinks. and that's Kurt Bloch right there in a nutshell. But yeah, he's just a super great guy, and like the stories, the last time we were actually physically in the studio with him was for the Kiss the Ass of My Heart single. And he, most of that, we used up most of our studio time just talking, like listening to him talk about all the stuff that he's done. And so, yeah, he's just a fantastic guy and just ridiculously talented, great dude.
So what should the fans expect from this next record? Is it going to be a little different from the last one?
Yeah, that whole growing up process that we were talking about is going to be, I think, very evident on this stuff. It's the least punk rock record we've ever done. There's definitely no like na 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 na, like downstroke Johnny Ramone guitars on this at all. It's very jangly. It's very Kurt actually said that it really sounds like a 70s record to him, and he doesn't mean 70s punk so much as like 70s guitar based pop. But it has a little bit of country influence, not a lot, but a little bit of country influence. It's got a little bit of, somebody else actually said that heard a couple tracks, they said it sounds like if the Eagles made a punk record.
Oh, wow.
So, and that makes it sound like it's a huge departure, and it probably isn't a huge departure, but like the elements of the band that were more jangly and pop and 70s AM radio-y are brought to the fore on this record. And the mixes that Kurt's doing of these have made it even more so, because it's like the guitars, it's still a guitar record and there's still loud guitars, but there's more texture and like I said, jangly, and it's pop music. It's not an angry record whatsoever. There's no punk rock anger, it's just, I think it's just going to be a great pop record. And like, to me, like it's everything from Buddy Holly to Big Star, which is what I always try to do. And maybe I've always tried to do that, and maybe I wasn't good enough to do it in the past. And I think I'm finally at the point, all of us in the band are finally at the point where we can do it rather than just, talk about it or hope we did it, So yeah, it's different. It's going to be a different record. It's a lot poppier and a lot janglier. So yeah.
That's awesome. So when do you expect to have that album out?
Well, it's in the final mixing stages now. And once that is done, it just needs to get mastered, which shouldn't take long. And so we're hoping by fall, and by fall, I mean maybe October, maybe by Halloween, to have that out. It'll come out on Rumbar on CD, and the vinyl is going to come out our label, Cassettes on Records, and the CD will probably be first in the fall, and then the vinyl will follow a couple months later.
I've noticed that you've made sure to get all of your records out on 7-inch. Sometimes it takes a while, but you you always get them out on record. Is that something that's pretty important to you, that there's a physical product for the record?
Yeah, I mean, I always want there to be, but it's a matter of if the money's there and if somebody's willing to give us the money to put it out or to just pay for it. And we do have that the See Her in Action EP, which was digital for a while and then it was on CD, is coming out on vinyl this month, I guess, on Snap Records from Spain, who have the Speedways and a bunch of other really awesome bands. So we're excited about that. Up until now, that's definitely the See Her in Action EP is definitely the best thing we've done, I think. And it got us closer to, who we want to be and the way we want to sound. So I'm really excited that that's coming out on vinyl. And we always try to get vinyl out because that's, as fans, that's what we like. I would much rather have a record if I really, really like a band. And also, I've noticed that they sell better. When we put out vinyl, it sells better and quicker than just people downloading it, because you can listen to it for free on Bandcamp anytime you want, really. But holding the record in your hand is something else. So, yeah.
Yeah, it's a different world these days, and a lot of people have completely digital music collections, but there's just something cool about
Yeah, absolutely.
having a physical product. So just final little question here. Where can people go to follow the Cheap Cassettes and to find your music?
They can go to our Bandcamp page. All the records are there. You can, just, get the digital record, or you can just listen to it if you want to, or you can buy the product at the Bandcamp page, which I believe is cheapcassettes.bandcamp.com. And we have a Facebook page and Instagram and all the usual social media stuff. So yeah, that's it.
Awesome. Well, thank you, Charles, for joining us on our inaugural episode.
Yeah, it's fun.